My name is Rachel, and what I'm about to tell you is the story of the day my family broke me and how I made sure I would never let them do it again. It all started on what should have been the proudest day of my life, my graduation. For years, I stayed up late, worked extra shifts, pushed myself harder than anyone else in my family ever did. I told myself, if I just achieve enough, if I just prove myself, they'll finally be proud of me. I pictured walking across that stage, diploma in hand, hearing cheers from my family in the crowd, maybe even a smile from my mom, just once. But when I walked into the house after the ceremony, that hope shattered. Balloons everywhere, music blasting, laughter filling the air. At first, my heart leapt. They remembered. They threw a party for me. I actually smiled, clutching my diploma so tight my hands shook. But then, I saw the sign, in big, glittering letters hanging above the table. Congrats, Ryan. Ryan, my sister's boyfriend. Not me. Not Rachel. Not the daughter who just graduated with honors. I froze in the doorway, my graduation gown still hanging off me, sweat sticking to my skin, the smile fading from my face. And my mom? She barely looked at me. She just shrugged like I was nothing and said, "He's worth celebrating." You're not. That was the moment I realized my family never saw me as someone to be proud of. And that was the moment something inside me snapped, because if they weren't going to give me my moment, I was going to take it. And I had no idea how dark things would get before I finally got justice. If you didn't already guess from the way my graduation ended, my family isn't exactly the warm, supportive type. No, let me rephrase that. My family can be warm, they can be supportive, just not toward me. See, I grew up in a house where love wasn't evenly distributed. It was rationed, measured, given out like rare treasure, and I was always last in line, if I got any at all. Melissa, my older sister, she was the golden child, the miracle, the star who could do no wrong. Me? I was the afterthought, the shadow in the background, the one who had to be understanding when things didn't go my way. And the thing is, it didn't start on graduation day. That was just the climax of years of small, sharp betrayals that built up like cuts on the same spot of skin. I remember when I was 10 and Melissa was 12. She got straight A's one semester, and my parents threw her a dinner at her favorite restaurant. Balloons, the whole 9 yards. When I later brought home straight A's too, my mom patted my head and said, "That's nice, honey. Keep it up." No dinner, no balloons. Just a pat. Birthdays were the same story. Melissa got huge, extravagant parties, themed decorations, expensive gifts, family flying in from other states. When it came to me, one year I got a half-melted ice cream cake from the grocery store. My dad even said, "Sorry, Ratch, money's tight this month." But 2 weeks later, Melissa got a brand new phone, just because. You'd think I'd get used to it. And in some ways, I did. I learned to swallow disappointment like bitter medicine. I learned how to smile and say it's okay when it absolutely wasn't. But you never stop feeling it, that gnawing ache of being invisible in your own home. And then there's my mom, Diane. If you're wondering whether she was oblivious to all this, the answer is no. She wasn't oblivious. She was the architect. She adored Melissa, worshipped her. And with me, she always had this sharpness in her tone. Like every word I spoke was an inconvenience. She didn't just ignore me. She diminished me. Constant little reminders that I wasn't special, that I'd never measure up. My dad, Greg, wasn't much better. He didn't play favorites the way Mom did. But he was weak. He let her do it. He stood by silently while I got overlooked again and again. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me. Like maybe he saw the imbalance, but he never said anything. And silence, in my book, is just another form of betrayal. And then came Ryan, Melissa's boyfriend. From the moment he stepped through the front door, I knew I was in trouble. He was charming in that fake, too perfect way, the kind of guy who smiled with all his teeth but never his eyes. And my mom, she fell for it instantly. She would beam at him like he was a celebrity gracing us with his presence. I remember one dinner early on. Ryan had just gotten some internship. Nothing huge, just a summer gig at a local firm. But my mom gushed like he'd cured cancer. "We are so proud of you, Ryan," she said, lifting her wine glass. "You're going to go far. You're the son I always wanted." I froze. Did she even hear herself? The son she always wanted. While I sat there, pushing peas around my plate, pretending my heart wasn't breaking into splinters. That was Ryan's place in our family. Not just Melissa's boyfriend, but the golden boy my mom chose over me. And I wish I could tell you I shrugged it off, that I rolled my eyes and moved on. But every word, every look, every moment of praise he got was another reminder that I'd never ever be enough. The night of my graduation party, well, not my party, all of those years of small betrayals came crashing together. It wasn't just about one night. It was about a lifetime of being unseen. And as much as I hated Ryan, I couldn't help but notice something off about him. Something behind that charming smile. Something that didn't add up. And I was right. Because Ryan wasn't just the golden boy. He had a secret. And uncovering it, that would change everything. After graduation day, I thought maybe things would calm down. Maybe the humiliation of that night would fade, and life would return to its usual rhythm of Melissa being adored and me being ignored. But no, that night was just the beginning of something worse. Because Ryan, he didn't just date Melissa. He embedded himself into my family like a parasite. One day he was just the boyfriend who came to dinner sometimes. The next it was like he lived there. My mom gave him his own set of house keys. My dad let him drink the special whiskey he only ever shared with close family. He even had a spot at the dinner table that was basically reserved. And it wasn't just acceptance. It was worship. At meals, Ryan sat at the head of the table, not my dad. Ryan. And me? I was the one who cleared plates, scraped leftovers, and loaded the dishwasher while everyone else laughed at Ryan's stories. One night, I walked into the living room and froze in the doorway. My mom was flipping through an old photo album, one of those thick leather ones filled with baby pictures. She had it open to Melissa's baby photos. And Ryan was right there beside her, pointing and laughing like he was part of the family history. "You were such a beautiful baby, Melissa," he said, kissing her cheek. And my mother, actually said, "Melissa was a beautiful baby, and Ryan, you would have been such a beautiful baby too." Like she wished he had been her. Do you know what it feels like to stand there, to watch your mother look at a stranger and wish he had been her child? It's like being erased, like watching someone else replace you in real time. But it got worse, because Ryan wasn't just charming to my parents. He was cruel to me. When Melissa wasn't around, he'd let the mask slip. Little comments, little digs. One time, I was in the kitchen making myself a sandwich. Ryan leaned on the counter, smirking. "You know, Rachel, you should be grateful. Melissa is carrying this family's pride now. Without her, and me, where would you be?" I froze, knife halfway through slicing bread. "I graduated," I muttered. "With honors." Ryan chuckled. "Cute? But your mom doesn't brag about that. She brags about me." And he wasn't wrong. That night at dinner, Mom raised her glass, again to Ryan, to our future son-in-law. We couldn't be prouder. Future son-in-law. Meanwhile, my own achievements, everything I worked for, went unnoticed. The thing is, I wasn't just angry at Ryan. I was angry at them, at my mother for feeding his ego, at my father for staying silent, at Melissa for never once standing up for me. And maybe part of me hated myself too. Because even though I knew I deserved better, some part of me still craved their approval. Still wanted my mom to look at me the way she looked at Ryan. But I wasn't imagining things. I knew there was something rotten beneath Ryan's shiny surface. I saw it in the way he looked at his phone and smirked when Melissa wasn't around. I heard it in the whispers he thought no one caught. And then, one night, I saw something I wasn't supposed to. It was late. Everyone had gone to bed. I came downstairs for a glass of water. Ryan was in the living room, phone lit up in his hand, grinning like a teenager sneaking around. I caught a glimpse of the screen, and it wasn't Melissa he was texting. My stomach dropped. I slipped back upstairs before he saw me. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. Ryan, the golden boy, the one my family adored, the one who replaced me, was cheating on my sister. And for the first time in my life, I had something they didn't. A secret. A weapon. But here's the thing about weapons. If you use them wrong, they blow up in your face. And Ryan, he wasn't about to let me hold that kind of power over him. After that night, I couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying it in my head. Ryan, sitting in the dark, lit up by the glow of his phone, smiling at something that definitely wasn't Melissa. It wasn't just the smirk on his face. It was the look in his eyes. A kind of hunger, a kind of excitement, the kind of look you only give when you're falling for someone. And Melissa? She was upstairs in bed, dreaming about her perfect boyfriend, while that same perfect boyfriend was probably texting another woman goodnight. For the first time, I felt something shift inside me. Not joy, not triumph, but power. Because for once, I had something Ryan didn't want anyone to know. For once, I wasn't invisible. The next morning, I watched him carefully at breakfast. Melissa was gushing about some date they had planned, and Ryan played the part flawlessly. He laughed at her jokes, held her hand, even kissed her forehead. But every now and then his phone would buzz, and I'd see that tiny flicker in his eyes, the same look I'd seen the night before. I knew I had to be careful. If I confronted him without proof, he'd deny it. Worse, he'd turn everyone against me. And let's be real, my family would believe him over me in a heartbeat. So I started paying attention, really paying attention. Ryan was careless sometimes. He left his phone lying around, always face down, but I caught him sneaking glances constantly. At dinner, in the car, even during family game nights. And when Melissa wasn't around, he wasn't quite as guarded. One afternoon, Melissa had gone shopping with my mom, and Ryan was in the backyard pretending to help my dad fix the grill. I watched from the kitchen window as he pulled out his phone, typing fast, grinning ear to ear. My heart pounded. This was it. This was my chance. I slipped upstairs, grabbed a pair of binoculars we kept from an old camping trip, and aimed them through the window at his phone screen. Ridiculous. I know. But desperate times, right? And I saw it, clear as day, the name Samantha at the top of his messages. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just some random friend. There were hearts. There were pictures. And then, there was a photo. One I can't unsee. I dropped the binoculars, hands shaking. It was real. He was cheating. But that left me with a question. What now? Do I tell Melissa? Do I tell my mom, who practically worships him? Or do I keep it to myself? Wait until I can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I wanted to scream it right then. I wanted to run into the backyard and yell, "He's cheating on you." But I didn't. Because I knew how that story would end. Melissa would cry. Ryan would deny it. And my mother would turn to me with that cold, sharp glare and say, "Rachel, stop trying to ruin your sister's happiness." And just like that, I'd be the villain. So I did nothing. Not right away, at least. But inside, I started planning. I needed proof. Screenshots, photos, something undeniable. And I wasn't alone. I confided in my best friend, Emily, the one person who's always had my back. We were sitting in her car after grabbing coffee when I finally blurted it out. "Ryan's cheating," I said. She almost choked on her drink. "Wait, what?" I nodded. "I saw it. Messages. Pictures. Everything. But if I say anything without proof, they'll crucify you," Emily finished. Exactly. So Emily helped me think it through. We came up with a plan. I'd wait, watch, gather what I could. Ryan wasn't careful, and that was his weakness. But the thing about secrets, they're never safe for long. Because one night Ryan caught me snooping. It was late again. Everyone had gone to bed, and I crept downstairs to grab my laptop charger I'd left on the couch. Ryan was there, sitting in the dark, phone in hand. And this time, he saw me. Our eyes met, and for a split second, I thought maybe he'd play dumb, pretend nothing was happening. But instead, he smirked, that cold, knowing smirk. "You saw it, didn't you?" he whispered. I froze. My throat went dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." He leaned forward, voice low, dangerous. "Don't play stupid, Rachel. You think you're clever, sneaking around, but if you say one word, just one, I'll make sure they never believe you." My stomach turned to ice. "What do you mean?" I managed. He grinned. "Your mom already thinks you're jealous of Melissa. You really think she'll side with you over me, over us?" He wasn't wrong, and he knew it. That night, I went back to my room shaking, because Ryan had me cornered. If I spoke up, I blew. If I stayed quiet, Melissa would keep living a lie. But here's the thing Ryan didn't count on. I might have been the family's shadow, the forgotten daughter, the invisible one. But shadows, they see everything, and I wasn't about to stay quiet forever. After Ryan caught me snooping, I spent nights lying awake, staring at my ceiling, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him smirking, that smug look like he knew he'd won before the battle even started. I kept replaying his words. If you say one word, just one, I'll make sure they never believe you. My chest tightened every time I remembered it. But slowly, a thought began to creep into my mind. What if I didn't have to say anything? What if I could prove it? The next morning, I went straight to Emily. Emily, I said, voice shaking but fierce. I'm done hiding. He thinks I'm scared. But he's wrong. I just need proof. I need undeniable proof. Emily's eyes lit up with that mix of worry and excitement I'd come to know. Then get it. You can do this. Just be smart. And I was smart. I started small, watching him carefully. Every text notification, every whispered phone call, every glance toward his messages became part of a puzzle. I kept notes, screenshots, even managed to record some conversations when he thought he was alone. Every little slip, every careless laugh, every flirty emoji, I collected it. But Ryan wasn't going to make it easy. He became paranoid. He started double-checking his phone, whispering into his hands when he thought no one could see, even closing doors. He thought he could outsmart me. He was wrong. Weeks went by. Every late night, every moment I spent in hiding paid off. Eventually, I had a file. Screenshots, photos, text messages, even a short video clip. It was undeniable, concrete, bulletproof. I remember the exact moment I realized it. I sat in my room, heart pounding, clutching my laptop like it was a weapon. And suddenly, for the first time in years, I felt free. Not just free from fear, but free from the years of invisibility, the subtle cruelty, the way my family always overlooked me. And that's when it hit me. If my family never valued me, maybe it was time to let them destroy themselves. I didn't want revenge for the sake of cruelty. I wanted justice. I wanted the scales to tip for once. I thought about graduation day, about the way my mom had laughed at me, about Ryan smirking like he owned the room, about Melissa not even noticing my broken face in the doorway. I had the power now, and I was going to use it. But here's the thing about revenge. Timing is everything. One wrong move, one slip up, and it could all blow up in my face. I had to be careful. I had to plan. And most importantly, I had to wait for the perfect moment. And that moment was coming sooner than Ryan ever imagined. The day finally came. Melissa was celebrating her achievement, some engagement milestone with Ryan, and the entire family was gathered. Balloons, fancy decorations, laughter filling the air like nothing could go wrong. I walked in, carrying my laptop bag, calm, collected, heart racing underneath my chest, but outwardly composed. Nobody suspected a thing. Ryan saw me first. That smug grin flickered for a second, but I could see the moment of recognition in his eyes. He knew I had something. The room was full of chatter, champagne flutes clinking. Melissa was glowing, oblivious, while my mom was smiling like Ryan had won the lottery of life. And then I spoke. Everyone, can I have your attention for a second? My voice was steady, but every syllable carried the weight of months of anger, humiliation, and betrayal. The room froze. All eyes turned toward me. Even Ryan's grin faltered. What's going on, Rachel? Melissa asked, her voice curious, a little confused. I clicked my laptop open and placed it on the table, tilting the screen toward everyone. This, I said, my hands firm, is what Ryan has been hiding. I hit play. Text messages appeared on the screen. Pictures, videos, every single bit of evidence showing Ryan cheating, flirty messages to another girl, selfies, even voice notes he thought I'd never find. The room went silent. The air was thick, heavy. Melissa's face turned pale. No, this isn't real, she whispered. Ryan tried to interrupt, stammering. It's not. You're lying. You're making this up. But the evidence was there, right on the screen. Bulletproof. My mom's mouth fell open, and instead of praise for exposing the truth, I got the usual. You ruined everything, she screamed, red-faced, shaking with anger. Rachel, why do you always have to destroy things? I took a deep breath. Calm. I let the silence fill the room. No, I said. You didn't ruin anything. Ryan did. And I just made sure everyone saw it. Melissa collapsed into the nearest chair, tears streaming down her face. Ryan tried to grab his phone, but I had already locked it away. The room was chaos. My dad stood frozen, clearly shocked, muttering something under his breath. My mom was screaming, pacing back and forth, and I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. For the first time, I wasn't the ignored, overlooked daughter. For the first time, I had the upper hand. And then I walked away, not angrily, not in triumph, just walked. Because there's nothing more powerful than refusing to stay in a place where you're not valued. As I left the house, I felt the old weight, the years of being dismissed, being mocked, being unseen, start to lift. I knew one thing for sure. My family would never forget this day. Not Melissa, not my mother, not Ryan. And for once, I wasn't the one left broken. Weeks passed after that night, and my life slowly began to untangle from the chaos my family had built around me. Melissa stayed angry for a while, lashing out at me, calling me a betrayer, saying I ruined her life. But over time, the truth sank in. Ryan's lies couldn't be hidden anymore. He left, humiliated, exposed for everyone to see. My family had no one left to shield or worship. And me, I started living for myself. I moved into a small apartment, furnished it with my own money, my own effort. I took a job I loved, surrounded myself with people who respected me, who actually cared about my feelings and my accomplishments. For the first time, I didn't need my family's approval to feel worthy. My mom, Diane, she's still bitter, still refuses to accept I'm doing fine without her validation. She texts occasionally, thinly veiled apologies buried under guilt and anger. But I don't answer. I don't need her permission to be happy. Melissa eventually reached out. She called one evening, voice shaking, saying she finally understood. I was blind, Rachel. I'm sorry for not seeing you, for letting him take the spotlight. I wish I'd fought for you. I listened. I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because I didn't want her bitterness to steal my peace. And me, I finally realized something that had been buried under years of neglect and favoritism. My worth isn't defined by anyone else. Not my mother, not my father, not Melissa, not Ryan. Graduation day had been the day they ignored me, laughed at me, made it clear I wasn't worth celebrating. But in the end, it became the day I found my own power. The day I realized I didn't need anyone's approval to validate my life, my accomplishments, my existence. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to stay where you're not valued, and finally stepping into the light on your own terms. And that's exactly what I did. I'm Rachel. I survived their cruelty. I exposed their lies. And I finally became the person I was always meant to be.